approaching this record, I really wanted a cohesive feel throughout the entire thing. Not just one song being its own entity, but all the songs kind of latching onto one another. And I really wanted to leave like a lot of interpretation for the listener to really dig in and find something for themselves, along with maybe feeling what I was feeling at the time by the picture that I was painting. The title, The Grieving, came from me actually just realizing that I had so many traumatic things happen to me throughout my life, and I just needed to man up and work through that grief and go through the grieving process and actually deal with it by the only way I really know how, which is putting pen to paper and getting it out through my lyrics and through the vocals and the energy that I put onto the record. Hazel Apparition was probably the fourth last song I wrote for the record. It was from a personal experience of just seeing my grandfather on his deathbed, and just the talks that we would have after hours and the things he would tell me, the things he was seeing. You know, he had gone quite past the edge and closer to the end, right? So that's the lyrics that came to that. And just watching him in such pain and just wanting him to kind of pass on, and I meet up with my grandmother, and just not in a selfish way, but I just wanted his kind of pain to end. Rothenberg is about David Rothenberg, who was a 6-year-old boy that was set on fire by his father, Charles Rothenberg. They went to Disneyland for father-son kind of retreat, and his father fed him sleeping pills, doused him with gasoline, and lit a match and took off. David Rothenberg surprisingly survived and is still alive to this day. A documentary was made in 1986, and it was just one of those things I watched when I was way, way, way too young. I was about 6 or 7 years old, and growing up in an abusive home myself, it just hit home with me, and I was kind of fearful that my father would do the same thing to me, and it just struck a chord. Cutthroat is about my sister, actually, more of like an ode to her. She's 5 years older than me, and growing up in a really, really abusive home, she took care of me a lot and usually had to hide me from my father when he was kind of on rampages. And the story is just detailing that, of, you know, actually literally hiding under the stairs from my dad and the talks we would have together. Innamorata is an Italian word for lover or sweetheart, and it's probably one of the more like straightforward songs on the record. Actually, lyrically, it's just straight up a love song. Violence is about my grandfather, who was convicted of a few pretty heinous crimes, and it's a pretty personal song for me, as I had to go into detail in the lyrics of exactly how it made me feel. Empress is about my mother, and mostly about residential schools. Residential schools were a place that First Nation people were forced to go to at a very young age. My mother was 6 when she was taken from her family off the reserve and forced to go to residential school. And from lots of abuse and malnutrition, lots of her friends, close friends when she was 6, died at the hands of the people that were taking care of them. And just the song's pretty much just about how harrowing an experience that was for her, and how like amazing she's turned out as a woman and being able to bring out me and my sister. So it's just a true dedication to her. In Ruin is about a pretty dark time in my life, much like lots of the content on this CD. It's just my way of kind of getting through things, and at that time I honestly didn't see any way past what I was going through other than taking my own life. And it actually helped me to get all the words on paper and just see them and realize what an impact that would be on other people, and how selfish it would really be of myself to do that. The Grieving is, I always wanted that to be, I always wanted to have a title track. It's something to really like encompass the entire feel of the record. And The Grieving is simply, you know, feeling the grief of loss, and just moving on from that, and feeling all those emotions and getting past it. Gods is about the question that I think a lot of people have, just what happens after we die. And before Curses and before this record, I had to deal with a lot of grief over the passing of my grandparents, 3 of them actually, and that was the burning question for me, is what happened to them after they die. And being brought up really in a really religious home, it just set me on so many different paths of what I really believed. Child Heart is about, well, specifically my divorce, and it's more of kind of a letter to my ex, kind of wishing her well, and dealing with, again, that grief of having to go through that, and understanding that you can love someone enough to kind of just let them go, and have them start their new life as well as you starting your new life. Sweet child.